like an old VW, this one in front. Not sure that it is. Yeah, it is too. An old VW station wagon. I know my father-in-law had one of those, and when I first joined the army at the Officer Cadet School at Portsea, 12-month course, he lent it to Kerry and I for 6 months. We had it for the second 6 months we were there. And the only way you could start it was push it. But luckily it was one of those things that one person could get in and push it and clutch start it, and away she went. I don't know why we never ever bothered with a bloody, we should have just gone and bought a battery, but we never did for 6 months. Just luckily where we lived was on a slight hill, or downhill, so jump in the morning and push it and it'd fire straight up. And then where I parked it when I was at the Officer Cadet School, it was flat, dead flat, but it was so light and easy to push. You only had to just barely get it moving and you could clutch start it and away she'd go. Yeah, so we had that for 6 months. Gave it back to the father-in-law and he sold it. Anyway, nice little vehicle, cheap to run, cost us nothing. Gave it back to him. And that was a long time ago, 1977. We probably had that from July to December 77, that little VW. The Officer Cadet School Portsea only exists in people's memories and in books. I think it closed up maybe in 1986, I think. First started maybe 1952. And it was to supplement the Royal Military College at Duntroon, to provide officers for the Australian Regular Army. Duntroon couldn't produce enough officers. It was a 4-year university degree course, RMC, Royal Military College Duntroon, Canberra. So they started up the Officer Cadet School Portsea down on the Mornington Peninsula, down from Melbourne, at Portsea, which used to be Commonwealth property. I think it still is, but now it's almost like a national park. Back in those days it was controlled by the military, and the Officer Cadet School was started up there. And I think the initial course went for 6 months. Not sure how long that was, but then they lengthened it to 12 months, 40 weeks. I think it was actually 42 weeks or something. But you added holidays, and it was like a 2-week changeover between graduating class leaving and a new intake coming in. 4 weeks leave, 2 weeks, 6 weeks there. They had a midterm break of 2 weeks, so it's another 8 weeks. So 44 weeks I think it was, actually, 44 weeks. The Officer Cadet School at Portsea. So if you started in January like I did, I think I had to be down there around about the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th of January, and finished on the graduation day was maybe the 10th of December, maybe the 15th of December, something like that. And so for all intents and purposes it was a year. And the difference between it and Duntroon was the Officer Cadet School Portsea didn't do the academic university degree side of the course. They just focused exclusively on military skills. And what they produced at the end of it was a second lieutenant infantry platoon commander. So you were had the basis of being in charge of an infantry platoon. And then on graduation, or prior to graduation, you got to choose the corps you wanted to go to. Not everybody got their first choice of corps. I didn't. I got my second. In hindsight, it was probably a good thing I did get my second choice. Yeah, and a lot of people got their first choice, but you had to put in 3 nominations for the corps you wanted. And if you didn't get your first, you got your second. If you didn't get your second, you got your third. And then after graduation, you went off to whatever corps you'd been allocated to. And you did the Young Officers course, YO's course they used to call it, Young Officers course, at the Corps School. In my case, I went to the Royal Australian Army Ordnance Corps, and the Young Officers course was at Bandiana, which is a suburb of Wodonga on the border of Victoria and New South Wales, Albury, Wodonga. And I went down to Bandiana to the RAOC Centre, Royal Australian Army Ordnance Corps Centre, and I think I started up there around about the end of January 78. So we had about 6 weeks off from graduation to starting a YO's course. All different corps started at different times, but mine was the end of January, and it was a 4-week course. That gave you the basis of the Royal Australian Army Ordnance Corps. And then from there, you go off to your first posting. And in my case, it was 141 Supply Company at Enoggera in Brisbane, which was a foodstuffs, POL, ammunition, combat supplies company, commanded by a major and one officer, other officer, which was a lieutenant, second lieutenant's position. 2 warrant officers, a chief clerk, company sergeant major, which is a warrant officer, so 2 warrant officers. Sergeant was a chief clerk. Small orderly room, and actually, tell a lie, we had total of 3 officers. It was the major, a lieutenant in the foodstuffs, POL, and then a lieutenant or a captain in the ammunition, technical ammunition side of it. And the ammunition also had a warrant officer class 2 and a sergeant. Yeah, all up at a military strength of around about 30. And I think we had 1 civilian driver. I think that's what it was. And that was my first posting. I did 12 months there. Yeah, so she's an oldie but a goodie, this one. Looks like it's got the original paint job. It's all faded and been sanded back by the look of it. Nice setup, isn't it? Very nice. Lovely house, garage, shed, workshop, a little bit of land. Beautiful. Very, very nice. And that's a big house. We've gone for a pretty penny. Looks like 2 houses. Another large house. This is not the shortest way home, but it's a nice scenic ride and I like it. The sky's taking it nice and steady, which is good. It's not flogging it. suppose his vehicle sort of is not lending itself to high-speed travel, which is good. He's not giving it a high. I can smell petrol. I'm wondering if it's coming from the car in front. No, it doesn't look like it's losing any. No, can't. It's all gone now. I can't smell it, but. Almost at the end of Calagary Bar Road. Oh, he's going to turn right. Looks like a hippie. He's got all things painted all over his vehicle. A flowing beard.